What's up, everybody? These are the Eris, and it was the reviews that turned me onto these. I've seen them on message boards a couple of times. As a bass person, I had actually bought a pair of the Punch Audio Martilo, and they were my go-to, like at work, on the go and everything, because they powered with my Griffin pretty well. But whenever I saw Z reviews doing them, he said that they sounded next to, like, similar to the Eris, which I had, I'd heard about them, but I hadn't actually heard them up to that point. Decided to do a little bit of my own research. I commented on, his video, and he said, that I should just go ahead and pick some up. I decided to do my own review of them, which there's a million reviews out there, but this is my take as a non-technical audio person who enjoys bass, but I'm a person that enjoys bass, but not a muddy mess and at the expense of everything else. So let me get into the sound of these. To start off, the bass is just crazy prominent. I mean, it's like super forward. But I found that I needed to cut around 250 hertz just to like clean it up a little bit, because it was a little bit muddy for me. Nothing crazy, but also these have two sound profiles you can use, and I think because the driver is like angled, so if you take these leads and you swap them and then turn the headphone around so that the left is still on the left side, it'll angle it the other way, and then you end up with I think he calls it staging mode. I think the staging mode should have been the default mode, because it cleaned it up and made it actually closer to the Punch Audio Martilo. The other way almost reminded me of like the 7 hertz Legato, which is just like a bass monster, but it definitely got a little bit muddy. The sub bass does have a tendency to roll off a little bit, and I did find that I had to bump that up some, which I have a few other, kind of what you consider bass headsets, like my TH900 and the LCD 20, Audi's LCD 20, and even my Audi's LCD X seem to really hit down in those like visceral sub bass regions more than the Eris. But the Eris, like, with what it does it with so much authority and so loud that I think it would appease most bass canon loving people. The mid range, I did find that I had to like bump the presence up a little bit. I use Peace, equalizer, APO, and then I use Peace to bump it up. Then I also use IFI products, and I turned on xBass with X presence with it, and that little analog bass boost that it gives, and then the presence seemed to really give it the. I'm not a technical guy, so I don't know, but it like gave it a more balance and clarity to me, and I actually bumped up the presence a little bit, and then I bumped up the treble a tiny bit to give it a little bit of sparkle. Nothing crazy. Treble was pretty tame. The mids were recessed, but little EQ takes that, and fixes that. The EQ pretty good. Nothing like crazy. My Audi's headphones, they just take EQ like monsters. That you can push them to whatever you want them to sound like. It feels like. The next thing I wanted to move into was gaming use. Whenever you have it in a staging mode, they definitely have pretty good imaging, but with the bass and everything, they make for a really great immersion. The noise canceling, since they're like a partial closed back, they're not the best at noise canceling, but they are decent enough. And I found for my on the go set, like, I'm gonna carry these every time I go. I didn't want to carry around my TH900 just because they're such expensive headphones, and I worry about scratching the lacquered ear cups. These are my music babies for sure. Like, I love most music through these things. These have the anniversary tuning, and they're nowhere near as harsh as, you know, some of the other ones. I actually ended up finding these for $7.99 in mint condition from Japan, and the shipping is only like 5 days to get to Texas, but I felt like it was the best deal I found on headphones so far. The other thing about, you know, the gaming is I actually use Dolby Access as well whenever I'm gaming. Yeah, I turn it on game mode. Imaging's super good, and you know, honestly, the comfort, which I haven't mentioned yet of these, is super good. So for long gaming sessions, these will probably be my default. You know, I do like the LCD 20. They're a little bit heavier and they're not quite as comfortable, but certain things they do better than these. But these are probably 7 out of 10 songs. I would rather listen to these than the LCD 20. For gaming, it's about 50-50. You're going to get more punch and slam out of the LCD 20, where these will have a little bit more rumble in the bass, if that makes sense at all. Portability is, you know, pretty good, you know, especially since they don't, you know, that's one thing about the LCD 20 is they require gobs of power. Like, they just sound kind of flat with my Griffin. But these are easily powered by anything. And I'd actually ordered a case for my Fostex, which this case on Amazon was like $20, maybe 25. Hard shell. The only problem I have is this logo is a little bit crooked, but yeah, they fit perfectly in here. And then this actually, my Griffin sits like right in here, and I can put the cable in the little bag that it came with, like right in between. So it's the perfect on-the-go solution. I just put my headphones, the amp, everything in here, zip it up, close it up, throw it in my bag, and it's a done deal. Yeah, I take it to work every day with me through this review, and I'll continue to do so, just because I really like the way the Martilo sound, but I don't like having IEMs, you know, the majority of my day. So I end up, you know, putting these on. And let me see, you know, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, a couple of downsides is I did get why these pads rotate, like they rotate like this, and it's so that you can change the staging mode, you know, each way. But I have found that the foam creaks a little bit. I don't know if I can be able, you know, tell it with the mic, but it can get kind of annoying. The rotating of the pads is not necessarily a negative, but it does set off my OCD. I'll sit there and fidget and make sure that they are exactly even, you know, before I'm using them. Another thing with that staging that I was talking about, like the staging mode, I have found that these are a little finicky as far as position. So if you're looking for the maximum stage and staging mode, if you push them as far forward as they go to where your ears are butting up against the pads, it increases that effect. Where if you go the opposite direction, it'll bring, you know, the bass in more like that legato IEM style. You know, it's kind of the same thing if you do it in reverse. But it's not necessarily a negative or anything, but you just have to be aware of where they are in your head, and you can almost like tune them a little bit that way. My music, you know, I listen to a whole lot of everything. Right before I started doing this, you know, hit record, I was listening to Searching for a Pulse by Orthodox, which is a, you know, pretty heavy metal song. And it had really great texture in the guitars. You know, it slammed good. It hit everything on all levels. You know, the only thing that might be better than these at music like that is the Fostex. I will say there is some metal, kind of like Lorna Shore, where it's so fast that some of my planar headphones do a little bit better job, you know, with the transitions and all that, especially the deep slams, you know, in the sub bass region that the LCD 20 can do. It definitely tends to bring those like big bass drops in, and But, I mean, these still aren't any slouch or anything. 9 times out of 10, like, I'm happy with every song I listen to on these. They do clarity pretty good. Obviously still not on the level of some of my higher end headphones, but listen to some retro wave like Shadows by the Midnight. It was really good. There's some jazz that's pretty decent. It's not as like sharp and holographic as like the Audi's headphones, but it's perfectly fine. I feel like the majority of people that are coming from the realm of like Beats or consumer headphones are gonna love these. Like, it would be a good gateway, and honestly, like the power requirements for them is just like not bad at all. So I feel like it's a probably going to be the gaming headphone I would recommend for most of my friends that are trying to get into audio. Um, Comparison with the LCD 20, uh, has better sub bass and everything is tighter overall. The Eris has more musical warmth and more forgiving in the top end. Sometimes especially if you tune the clarity in there a little bit, the planar headphones can get a little too sparkly for me and be a little bit fatiguing, where these are probably the least fatiguing headphones I have, even less fatiguing than the Fostex are, which I know the old Make 2 was pretty fatiguing, but these are the anniversary tuning, so they're a little more forgiving. The Fostex obviously have insane sub bass, but other than that, these stand up with the Fostex bass. Just not the lowest of the lows. The treble's a bit hotter, obviously, like I just mentioned. The LCDX, wins in clarity, and the sub bass is there, but it just doesn't slam like a closed back would. In normal mode, these are like in IM terms, these are kind of like the tuning of the Legato, I would say. Maybe a little more clarity. And then whenever you put it in staging mode, they're definitely like the Martilo, the Punch Audio Martilo, which I love those. But now that I have these, like, I rarely use the Martilo just because I much prefer the comfort of these. I don't like having the IMs constantly. Didn't have a chance. I actually sold my DT 1770s and my DT 1990s long before I got these. The LCDX put my 1990s out of commission, so that's why they're gone. And then the Fostex are what made me sell the 1770s, just because I only have so much budget to go around. I can't keep everything on the shelf. So, recap, the pros are, there's excellent bass quality. You can actually bring the sub bass up pretty decent. Takes EQ pretty good. It's comfortable, it's lightweight, it's easy to drive, great for gaming, great for music. And one of the biggest things is it's way more affordable than most of my other headphones. And, I didn't really like the idea of carrying around $1,000+ set of headphones, where these, with the coupon that I had, I got them for like $250. Like, that's not bad at all. People walk around with AirPod Max, all day long, and those are like way more expensive. So, not necessarily perfect. And if you're like a measurement snob, I feel like they're probably not for you. But actually started trying to get into measurement, the analytical side, and it turned into more of a chore. Well, I just wasn't enjoying the music. Was thinking too much on the dissecting and picking stuff apart. Kind of like whenever I would start benchmarking my gaming rig, it's like it turns into like just the performance and no longer buying into having fun with the games. So take that with whatever you want. But I guess that's about the final thought on it. If you have any questions, you want to know any more about any of the other headsets I mentioned, hit me up. Really, these videos I'm just putting out for fun. I'm not trying to do anything crazy with it, and I just want to like share my opinion and really get my ideas solidified by making videos like this. Plus, it helps me learn to be comfortable on camera and all that. But I guess I'll have a good night. Like I said, comment down below if you want anything even if you have another headphone you'd like for me to like do my style of review, which is not very technical at all, just holler at me and I'll see if I can make it happen, or see if I can get a pair borrowed. So sorry it's a little long-winded, but later.